Good afternoon, good morning from all over Africa, all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another webinar series brought to you by MSM Unify. This is the MSM Campus Connect. And in today's webinar series, we'll be talking about the benefits of international education. And there's no other way for us to be able to get the real benefits rather than talking to current and former international students. In today's webinar, we have two special guests. And when I mean special, because it's going to be quite different from the other series we'll be having. We actually have an entrepreneur who has a very good startup, and we'll be having a very close conversation as to how she went about getting this startup all running and the possibilities that you can also enjoy by listening to her wealth of experience. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to be having conversations with the speakers. So if you have questions, we will enjoy you to please put it in the Q&A session box or through this chat box, and we will always come back to that during this webinar or perhaps at the end, so that we can be able to answer all your questions. Before I go on to introduce our distinguished guest, this is to let you know that this webinar series is brought to you by MSM Unify. It's a wonderful platform that guides all international students on the possibilities that are available for you across all our school partners in the UK, in US, in New Zealand, and several parts of the world. I'm moderating this session with my colleague, Titus. My name is Ikena. So I will hand over to Titus to give a little bit of introduction, and then we'll open up the floor for our speakers to also introduce themselves. Hi, Titus, how are you doing today? You look very sharp in your suit.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Titus Suter. I'm the Country Manager for Kenya at M-Square Media. So today I'm excited to be part of this session because of 6 reasons. So I'll start with my first 3 reasons. So our first speaker is Lyn. 3 reasons why I'm excited to host Lyn in this session is because 1, Lyn is an alumni of University of Warsaw, and also I myself am the alumni of University of Warsaw. The second reason is Lyn is an Erasmus Mundus alumni. I'm also an Erasmus Mundus alumni. Third reason, Lyn is working at the United Nations. She works with World Food Program. For me, my desire was to work with United Nations. So I'm happy to host someone who is working at the UN. And then our second speaker is Kaki Mukendi. So I'm also excited because of 3 reasons. The first one is Kaki. She is an alumni of Egerton University. So I was a student at the same time with Kaki at Egerton University. We joined at the same time and we cleared almost at the same time. The second reason, Kaki was a member, an official of the Kenya Red Cross at the university. She was an official. I was also a member of the same club, but I was an official of Model United Nations. So I'm also happy to refresh our memories at the university. And the third reason is Kaki has a master's in natural resource management, and my background also is in natural resource management. That's my undergraduate. So I'm very happy to host our speakers today. And some of the career possibilities in today's session, 1 is you can work with an international organization. For example, Lyn, who is working at the United Nations. And then 2, you can start your own entrepreneurial activity or a company, like now Kaki, who has a company in Norway. And then finally, you can also join an academia. You can become a lecturer, not just in Kenya, but you can become a lecturer abroad. For example, Kaki is a lecturer also in a university in Norway. So I'll take this opportunity to ask our speakers to introduce themselves You can tell us about your academic, your professional, or even your personal background. Thank you so much.
So perhaps Gaki, can you go first?
Yeah. So my name is Gaki. Some remember me as Lyn Macharia, and I'm an alumni of Egerton University. So like what Titus said, so it's been a long journey, and I have also studied abroad in Norway. So I've had the opportunity to study there 2 times. First time was just a short course, and then I've done my master's in ecology. And professionally, I am doing. I'm in the startup ecosystem. So I have a coffee company both in Kenya and in Norway, and it's okay. It's it's progressing well. And also I teach part-time or as a guest lecturer at the university where I started in the renewable and biodiversity, which I can talk about later. Yeah,
Nice.
what was that? Yep.
Yeah, cool. So Lyn, if you could just give us a little bit of introduction so that we'll know the distinguished speakers we're having in our midst today.
Thank you, Ikenna. Thank you, Titus, for the opportunity. Pleasure to meet you here, Gaki. My name is Lyn Macharia. My academic background is I'm an alumni of Strathmore University, and also I have studied Masters in Project Management and in International Humanitarian Action. And professionally, I have worked in various roles, mainly in finance, financial management, administration, project management, and most recently in information technology. And yes, I'm also an Erasmus Mundus alumni and currently working with the United Nations in the Digital Transformation Unit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lyn. Thank you so much, Gaki, for a very good introduction. So Titus, if you could just help us with the screen so that we could continue with the conversation. So I'm going to start with you, Gaki. It's a very good pleasure having you here today. So just a very quick question as regards to your academic and professional background. I know it takes a lot, for students to make up their minds about studying abroad. We just want to know, give us a little bit of a background into, the academic part as well as the professional background just before studying, so that people can relate. You're an entrepreneur, you're an Erasmus, scholar, you're a lecturer, in Norway. So people are like, oh, that's such a very big achievement. How do I get there? But obviously you started somewhere. So give us a little bit of your academic and professional background so that people can connect and see that it's possible and they should be able to pursue, such quests to study abroad.
Yeah. Thank you, Ikenna. I have looked at my CV sometimes and had the same reaction, like, oh my God, who am I? Like I have all these diverse backgrounds, and sometimes I was afraid and I thought that it was my weakness or my weak area, like when I come to applying for jobs. But then the more I grow into it, the more I realize that it's actually a strength. Because for my bachelor, I did food science and technology 4 years in Egerton University. But I was very much involved in other activities like Kenya Red Cross, like Titus said, expeditions. So as much as I was a lot in the lab and doing all these other like sciences, I also had a life out of the class. And that gave me a bit of exposure to what I might want to work with after campus. And one thing I was sure about, I'm not proud of this, but I know that I didn't want to work in the food industry directly. I didn't want to go to one of those big food manufacturing companies in Kenya. I wanted to live. I wanted to work more with people. So instead of getting or jumping to the first opportunity, and there were many back in the day, like in food science, in the food industry, I decided to take an internship. So I did a voluntary work, and then I took up a 1-year internship with the National Council of Churches of Kenya, which functions like an NGO. So I was in programs, So I was there for 1 year. And during this time, I was trying to find out like what I want to pursue in the future for a career. And it's just after I finished my 1 year internship when I heard from a colleague at the time about like summer schools in Norway. And then he told me, you should give it a try. And I was like, no, it was a course in international development studies. And I didn't have any of that background. I was like, I don't think I stand a chance, but still told me, give it a try. So I actually applied and I got a scholarship. And it was just 5 Kenyans that were there from different places. And actually I was the only one that got a scholarship that year. So out of everyone. So it was a very diverse environment. And I can say that was my game changer. Like it really opened up my eyes. And I also got to meet people from other areas. And then because now I got into this international development studies, which is quite broad and different from what I had studied, then it gave me a broader perspective on other things like climate change, environment, things that I wanted to work with, but still I didn't know exactly what to work with or how to pursue or what I would pursue when I did a master's. But I knew that I didn't want to pursue a master's in food science and technology. So I went back to Kenya and I was just taking time and thinking what I want to study. And then I said, okay, I think I really like to work in the environmental sciences or something of the sort. So then I started my journey back to Norway or Europe, because when I was at the summer school, I learned that first in Norway, the education was still free. So I didn't need to pay school fees. And I had already established some networks and contacts in Norway. So when I applied, I didn't immediately get accepted because of my background, but they had an option of me to study 1 year, taking single courses in natural sciences so that I can bridge into a course in environmental sciences. And what I found there was a course in ecology. And I loved research, or I found out that I really want to indulge more into research. So after 1 year of single courses, then I was able to start my master's in ecology. And I felt that I could really relate, because ecology is more like interaction of organisms or animals with the environment, also with people included. And I felt so much at home, in ecology. I still say that ecology books are the only ones that I read from cover to cover. That's how much I love it.
Wow,
so
impressive.
In terms of work, you could see that I was so passionate about this topic, because I remember I once got a job and it was so big that it was in the news in my university, because I was interviewing for a summer school, like cleaning job, I was like, yeah, I want to work as a waitress this summer. So when I went for the interview, we started talking and they started to ask me, okay, what can you bring into organization? I was like, yeah, you can actually do a lot. You can reduce your food waste. It affects the environment because of the emissions in greenhouse gases. And they're like, wow, overly impressed. That they said I'm overqualified, of course. So they didn't give me that job, but they did create me a position where I was assisting the director for sustainability in like the biggest hotel chain in Norway and across Europe, actually. So, like you could say that I was so passionate about what I was studying and also applying it. And then coming back to Kenya, I was doing my field work in Uganda, actually, but then of course it's close to Kenya. So I spent some time at home. And that's when now I started to see the challenges with the coffee farmers, because my dad or my parents are coffee farmers. So I started to relate, because I could see that my dad was earning so little money from the coffee. But then I remembered how costly, I could hardly, afford a coffee in Norway. I was like, wow. So how come, like we sell the coffee so high and Kenyan coffee is very prized in Norway, but my parents get so little. So my coffee startup was inspired by my dad. Like I just saw how much he earned. And also I saw that, okay, I had the opportunity at least to try and talk about it. And I just started very small with friends. And just like that, Iburu Coffee was born. But also because of my background in ecology, I could see the linkage between the, deforestation, when farmers stopped farming coffee because of deforestation. So for me, I wanted to address these two things, and I saw that they could work together. So deforestation and poor prices. So that's where Iburu Coffee was born, and I keep working on it because it's kind of in me, like, the ecology, the food part, the prices. Yeah. So.
Wow, impressive. Yeah. That's such a very great, story. Looking at, instead of on the food section, you moved into international development. You came back. You tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and now you're into, I would say, a little bit of farming and entrepreneurship. So that's impressive. What a very good story, and it just shows the world of opportunities. Beyond borders. What international education, the exposure can actually, give, students. And really, really great to know that. Lyn, perhaps, do you share similarity in terms of your background, your academic background, or your professional background? Is it the same with Gaki in terms of just going wild around, testing and, trying to, get the right, balance? I know that you work in the UN, you also are a scholarship, person. So just give us a little bit of a background as to your academic, so as a professional, your background before your study abroad, just for us to be able to, establish that conversation today.
Thank you very much, Ikenna, and thank you, Gaki. I think I can definitely relate with some of your experiences, and indeed, I hope in the next 5 to 10 years I can jump onto entrepreneurship as well. So just a bit of background on myself. For me, I studied at Strathmore University, Business and Information Technology. In school, I liked more of the maths courses, so that seemed a good fit for me because we had a mix of both. I think when I joined, it was maybe the third or the fourth cohort. It was still a relatively new program. So it was very exciting, learning a bit of programming, web design. And so I ended up at the same time that I was doing business and information technology, I was also doing accounting courses, this ACCA program. So that is how I ended up now sort of switching careers initially onto finance. So when I finished from Strathmore University, I got my first job in an IT company doing networking. So with IT, in some cases, they recommend you get a specialization. You do a certificate course. There's so many branches. You can go into networking, into cybersecurity, into web design or programming. So for me, because I did a specialization in networking, that's where I had my first job for about 1 year. And then after that, I opted to go for a master's degree in project management. And I chose project management because I wanted to have a bit more diversity, because I did not specialize in programming and web design. I wanted to go more in the line of the team collaboration rather than the technical element of IT. So that's how I now ended up doing project management and a few certifications. And so my course was in the University of Sunderland. So I actually ended up choosing that university because at the time that I was to go for my course, it was around February. And normally in the UK, I think most courses start in September. So the choice of universities are not very many if you go for the winter term. So I got a partial scholarship to the University of Sunderland, where I studied IT, and I worked there I did a bit of volunteering, and that's how I ended up working for a charity there for about 1 year, after which I came back to Kenya. So when I came back to Kenya, I had about a course in AMREF, at AMREF, called a monitoring and evaluation course. So when I did that course, it piqued my interest again in the NGO sector, and that's how I got my first international opportunity with an NGO called Action Aid, where I went to work in Sierra Leone. So they have a program called the Inspirator program, where they have you go and do capacity building in another country in different areas. So for my side, because I had done ACCA and I went to do capacity building in financial management in Sierra Leone. So I went there for 2 separate placements, coming to about 1.5 years. So that also made me miss studying abroad, because it's interesting to go and interact with people from a different culture. You eat different food. You learn so much that there's beauty in diversity, and you learn so much from each other. And that actually piqued my interest again to study abroad. So once I finished my placement in Sierra Leone, I came back to Kenya. And at that time, I had my daughter, so I took a break, and that's how I now heard about the Erasmus Mundus program. So what determined the choice of countries or universities was the course. So I found the course in international humanitarian action most appealing to me, because my mother worked in an NGO, and since I was small, I always wanted to work with an NGO through different volunteering capacities. I just knew that I want to end up working in an NGO where I can feel the work I'm doing has an impact at a wider, at a community level, let me say. So when I went for my course, I finished the program in international humanitarian action, and that's when I got my current position at the World Food Program. So I definitely advocate for the Erasmus Mundus program, because like one of the panelists in actually the interview of my current job actually had heard about it, and I think she missed out on the opportunity like 20 years ago to have the Erasmus experience. So it's made a point of it was a point where we were able to relate, and I think that also added value to my interview experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lyn. What a great similarity. It's so interesting that, to get a scholarship to study abroad, so many students always think it's just something you wake up overnight and just, start up and, see yourself abroad. It takes planning, it takes connections, it takes hard work, it takes being consistent, in being able to, achieve, some of the things you have just, told us. Just to ask a follow-up question from all what you've said, Lyn and Gaki, if I may ask, why abroad? Why did you choose to want to study abroad? What's the motivation, about studying abroad? Maybe Lyn, you could start. Just give us a little bit, a very, succinct reason why you felt abroad was the correct, decision. What was the motivation for that?
Thank you, Kenna. I think maybe I'd say my main 3 motivations were one would be to boost my CV, to boost my profile, to have an international experience, to interact with people of different cultures, because even in the work environment, I think it's something that adds value, where you have interacted with people from different countries, different cultures. It helps. I've worked with people from different places before, so it's added ease to interacting with diverse people. Another reason I would say was I wanted to make new friends, because I think it's always a good thing. And some of the people I met in the course I did are still my friends to date, and I learned a lot, and they helped me so much during my course, and we still keep in touch. And I think for some of them, yes, I wanted to make lifelong friends. And lastly, I would say the other main motivation was to get exposure to the workplace in an international environment, because having worked in Kenya as well, I'd worked also with an energy company doing renewable wind energy. I wanted to see how people work in a different environment, whether there is really any similarity, any differences, anything that I could pick and come back with back to Kenya and improve my experience and the experience of the company where I would be working. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lyn. What a very good reason, for choosing to study abroad. Gaki, do you share some similar thoughts? Why abroad? Why did you choose to study abroad?
Thanks, Ikenna. But I would say I'm inspired by Lyn right now. I wasn't that organized. And studying abroad was not my initial idea. But when I was in high school, I used to learn German. So I had an idea of, like what life, or I could imagine what life abroad would be. So I just wanted to fly out to experience, like the other kind of life. And I had an aunt who had flown out back in the day. So I think she was also my inspiration for me to go abroad. But to study, my first opportunity to study abroad was completely accidental. But that's what changed my perception about studying abroad, which is why I went back to actually study abroad. Because when I attended that summer school, I wasn't even thinking about my master's, funny enough. But the kind of exposure and the kind of people I met there, they inspired me to be better and to see that, it's possible, that you can do anything. And because it was a postgraduate level certificate, so most of them were also pursuing their masters. And for the first time, I started to consider, like taking a master. So I got a lot of inspiration from the different people that I met at the summer school. And that actually now gave me a plan, or inspired me to start making a plan on how to go and study abroad, because I felt it was a really good experience. And reaching there, it was a lot more possibilities than we had in Kenya. For example, just being able to study for free, and the level of education was so high quality. You know what I mean? Like you get access to all these facilities, really nice libraries. The teachers, the lecturers were very accessible. So that also inspired me to go back, because I felt, it's our different culture, it's our different vibe. So I think for me, that first time was the trigger for me to want to go back to study abroad, because of the inspiration I got from everyone I met and the different culture.
Thanks a lot for taking us into that journey, before and why, you wanted to choose, studying abroad. Great. So I will just hand over to Titus. Titus, if you just please take these other questions for our distinguished speakers.
Yeah. So my next question to Lyn is, when was your first time to start dreaming of studying abroad? And how long did it take you before you realized your dream to study abroad?
Thank you, Titus. I think that's a great question. I think from when I was younger, I always hoped I would study my first degree abroad, but life happens and it was not possible at the time. So I would say I always desired to study abroad, even in high school. But one thing that changed my perception from this whole experience is I always assumed that if you're not, like, say, top 1 to 5, you cannot get a scholarship, so you should not bother studying abroad. So I think that was one reason why I did not attempt to apply for scholarships or studying abroad initially, because I thought maybe my grades were good, but they were not excellent, like top 1 to 5. So I thought I was already eliminated from that. But the good thing with education and continuous learning and development is that you can always do better. Your grades in one course do not determine the trajectory of your life. So that continuous learning helped me to get, I thank God that in my other courses, I got good grades, and that opened also additional opportunities for me. So I would say from the time, my first time to study abroad was in 2011. And then the next time was 2018. And I would say initially, I up to date, I still want to one day possibly pursue a PhD. And that was one reason that made me go back to school most recently in 2018, because I think for most PhD programs, they recommend that you have your last research period is not more than 5 years prior to when you're applying. So for me, because I studied in 2011, then I saw if I want to study for a PhD, I need to go back to school also. So I think for me, this is not the end. I hope to apply for another scholarship for further studies. So yes, my most recent studies being 2018 to 2020. Thank you.
Kaki?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I didn't always dream of studying abroad until I got this first opportunity to actually study abroad. And like Lyn, I also didn't have like the topmost grades. So I didn't even think I would qualify for a master's or even, a scholarship. But when I applied and got a scholarship, I saw that it's possible, like doesn't matter your grades, but it also helped that I was taking an internship in a field that I wanted to be involved in or work with in the future. So the more I climbed the academic ladder, I realized that also experience, like Lyn mentioned, counts. Like you have to continuously improve yourself, which is why I was able to, like get into masters in ecology. But just remember, I also had to take 1 year of courses, single courses or individual courses for me to qualify, because it's also competitive when you're, it's very limited places abroad actually. But just that first opportunity made me realize that it's possible no matter my background, and you just need to be, persistent and know what you want, and there's always a way to reach there. So currently I'm so much in the field of ecology, and I'm teaching at the same university where I did my master's in renewable energy, but looking at the biodiversity. So the biodiversity aspect is a lot of ecology. So you can relate ecology to almost anything. So which is another reason why I took ecology, because it's dynamic course and it's very research based. And so I also want to study more abroad. But of course, I have specialized in the tropics, so I really love research in the tropics, but I just like both worlds. They're so different. It's difficult for me to choose. So I'm gonna keep studying abroad, but also with an interest, a lot of interest in tropics, which is mostly the African countries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Next question is your expectations. Maybe we can start with Kaki. What was your expectations before starting abroad versus your actual experience? Did you experience what you were expecting?
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. So the way from when I landed, I was kind of lost, but also very curious. It was summer. It was still light, and I thought it's like midday, but it was actually late and everything was closed. So I didn't know what to expect. It was just like 1 year after I had finished my university, but my experience exceeded what I would probably have expected, because, the different cultures. But I think the second time when I came back to study in Europe, I had expectations, because the summer experience was so good. I expected the same kind of thing, life when I came back. But now it was real life. So people are not like as social as they are in Africa. I don't know about other countries. I think that also has to do with the weather. So I was very sad, and I felt that people are not talking to me, something like that. Like my second time experience was very different, because now I was coming alone. I didn't come in a group like I did during the first time. So when I was new, the second time my expectations were not, I had different expectations than I got. I expected the same kind of hospitality that I had received when I come to the summer school. But now when you come alone, it's on a different level, and you have to take responsibilities. There are bills. You have to, find place to live. So I had to do all that by myself. So that was a bit difficult, but then I got used to it. And of course, when you ask people for help, they will always respond. Just that they're not, like in Nairobi or Kenya, where people can easily talk to you in the streets. So you kind of have to take your own initiative to go and learn how to live and fit into the society. And also, yeah, I wasn't thinking about the language. So that was another thing. So I thought that it's okay, but I started to receive my letters in Norwegian, and that was a bit difficult. So I think those are some of the things. Like I maneuvered, but yeah, the second time I had those kind of expectations.
Okay, thank you so much. Lyn, your experience?
Okay, thank you, Titus. And similar to Gaki, I'd say my reality was better than the expectation for the most part, because my first experience abroad in an English-speaking country, I think everything was pretty much straightforward, except for, I think it helps to befriend people who have been there for a while, like whether it's other students or the faculty or people around you, because you get to find out about things which could make your life easier. For example, I'll give an example. For example, in the UK, there's something called a rail card, which gives students discounts, great discounts for traveling all over the country or different places. So if you don't know about it, you'll pay the full amount. And so there are many similar instances where I would say people do not get the full benefits because they don't have enough information, which they could get from maybe people who have been there for a while. For my second course, I would say my expectation, I had never thought of studying in Poland. I did have interest in Germany, so I went to study in Poland and Germany. So if I remember even checking on Google, are these countries racist? Things like that, because sometimes the information you hear about different countries is wrong, or even on Google may be wrong than what is actually there. So I did find they were pretty friendly countries. And my expectation, especially studying second time round with a small child, I thought it would be very difficult. It was not the easiest, but I think the reality was that it was easier than I thought it would be, because the schools are very accommodative. They have family accommodation on campus. They are very helpful, and they try to make concessions where they can. I think in terms of expectations for the academics, I think especially my first experience, like after Strathmore universities, that's a difference I noted, like with the referencing system. I think we used to, when I did my my final project, I think pretty much gave a list of just listed the references where we had them. But when I went for my course, I found there are so many different referencing systems, Harvard, APA. So such information, I think my first assignments, I didn't do that well because I did the referencing the way I was used to doing it. So that was something that helped in my second course, just finding out which referencing system is preferred and then doing my assignments in line with that. In terms of the academics, like in Poland, I think most of the days our courses were, we were done by half day. By 2 p.m. we'd finished all the courses, and I think we had classes maybe 3 days a week. So it made my schedule very flexible. I was able to catch up on my work, and the daycare system in the country, they have private and public, but for public you need to speak the language. So that made my academic life easier in comparison to Germany, where we were studying, I think 9 to 5 p.m. every day and with assignments. So I think the workload in the way of the academic system in Germany was different. I think more intense. The style of learning was different. So I think that's something that I also enjoyed, as difficult as it was. It helped me to have to work harder and to not get used to, not to get relaxed, basically to adjust and and even the grading systems are different. So I found that's something new. I learned that you get points for participation in class discussions. So that's something which I think opened my eyes to see. Sometimes you might say you don't want to talk too much in class, or you want to talk a little, but sometimes it makes a difference in your grades. So I think definitely the reality was better than the expectation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Wow. Good expectations, not too good expectations, mixed feelings. You know, I hear you a lot, and seriously, most of the attendees are learning, you know, and removing the fantasy about studying abroad. Yeah, good experiences, but you just need to manage the expectations. It's not once you just get there, everything just falls in place. Preparation, being able to communicate, knowing that the education in your home country is going to be quite different, learn how to adjust and flow, you know, and then most times you have to be able to take that initiative. Great stuff. Yeah, and obviously it just shows that, you know, the cultural differences, you know, also matters. And with time, you know, you tend to be able to adjust and be able to have an open mind, you know, to be able to accommodate and, you know, learn a lot from, you know, different people and cultures. Let's go to a little bit of a very interesting part where most, you know, students, especially from the African continent, are very interested in. You know, most people will go for fairs, will talk to students. They always ask, I want to work and study. You know, can I work? Can I earn? You know, that's something that's a very valid, you know, concern for most students. So you are the experienced ones. You studied a lot. Some of you are already working. You know, while studying, did you have adequate, you know, opportunities for perhaps part-time jobs, you know, or maybe internships? Are these jobs linked to what you studied or a little bit different? You know, was there a little bit of aid or guidance from the school to help you get in these jobs, you know, or was it just mere volunteer and then don't get paid? So just give us a little bit of, you know, understanding, you know, since you've been there, done, and, you know, left. Let us know, are there opportunities for such? You earn a lot. Is it worthwhile? Did you have any assistance in getting them? And the jobs that you got, was it linked to your studies or was totally different? Gaki, if you want to start.
Sure. Yeah, normally, I don't know about other countries, but at least in Norway, you're allowed 20 hours or 20 hours a week to work. So as a student, you can work, but just for a limited amount of time. And if you break that, it's very strict. Then you are denied your visa, your student visa. So yes, there is many opportunities to work depending on where you are. I think it might be easier in English-speaking countries because I felt that the language barrier was quite a challenge for international students. But also through my experience, I always say, when I look back, it's two types of students. There are those that actually come and focus on their studies, and they do very well, and they finish and they get, and they also manage to work a little bit on the side. And there are those who actually come and forget that they are students and they just capitalize on working. Yeah. So you have to be very wise when you're abroad. You have to decide whether you're going to be serious on your studies or whether you're going to be serious about making money. It is good, but it's very short term, in my opinion. You want to reap the benefits of studying abroad because, you know, people here are working hours, so everything is strict, and that can take away a lot of your time, which you would be spending networking and actually experiencing or having a more gainful experience. And also, like Lyn mentioned about the grading system, it's quite different, but also strict. It's the one place where I said every time I look at my grades, actually get what you deserve. You know, if you didn't study, you fail, by the way. And you know, there's this limit to how many times, the number of times that you can study. There's also a lot of restrictions when it comes to plagiarism. It's very serious. You can get deported. So yes, there are those opportunities, but you have to be wise enough to know what you want to pursue. And most of the time, the students that remain diligent in their work and like stick to the 20 hours or the time allowed to work, you're able to get more opportunities in your line of studies, because the other students, they spend all their time working there. They don't have time to network. And in my experience, the time you spend networking and finding the right connections is like an investment, because that's how you learn about the jobs, the possibilities, and what you can do. So that's what I would say.
Great. Thank you so much, Gaki. Lyn, could you share a little bit of your experience in terms of part-time jobs and all that, while you studied?
Okay, thank you, Kenna. I agree with Gaki in terms of, yes, there are people who are able to work and study, and others who study entirely. I think it's dependent on so many factors. Even with a scholarship, someone's personal circumstances, I think, influence their decisions. I think there are people who, with their scholarship, you may still be supporting various, you may have multiple responsibilities, so you don't have an option but to look for a part-time job. But I think I would say, from my experience, if you're able to focus entirely on studying and then work during the summer breaks, get those summer, when you have long breaks and you're not studying, if you're able to work during those times, then I would say do that based on my experience. But I do understand that, yes, everybody's experience is different, and I think it boils down to each person. There's somebody who can work and study, and then their grades will suffer. And there's somebody who maybe will sleep 3 hours, work and study, and still get good grades. So something has to give somewhere. So it's I think individual person to determine what works best. But for me, I think what worked best at the time was studying entirely. I did apply for different opportunities while I was there during my breaks, and I would say that I think that helped me to concentrate on my studies. But I definitely, I think, I believe even when we got the scholarship, when we went to meet the European Union representatives, I think someone asked a question whether it's possible to work during while having a scholarship, and they did say you got the scholarship to study, so maximize on that. Study. There'll be time to work after you finish. Thank you.
Great. Very salient points there. So it all depends on you. You know your strengths. And I think I like, when you talk about there's time for working, rather than just, doing all the, very demeaning jobs just to get a little peanuts. Just like Gaki talked about, the time in networking, that's an investment. It's not just go and earn the minimum wage. Connect, go do networking, activities, volunteer, meet people. They're the ones that will tell you the big jobs that don't get advertised because you met them, But rather than doing all the, part-time jobs, you just get drowned and it suffers, your academic suffers, and you may not even get the big hit at the end. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm actually learning a lot. Just the last question from my own end before Titus takes over. What support did you actually receive, to prepare you for the next level in your career, post-graduation from the school? I know there are a lot of career counseling and advice going on campus, but did you receive a lot of support, while in school? And how did you actually position yourself, for this current expectation of being an entrepreneur, working in UN, all the jobs you've had? Was it all related in school? Did you get any guidance from school? How did you get yourself all positioned to be so great, and successful, ladies, in your profession?
Yeah, I can go first. Yes, you get a lot of support as a student, or as an international student, or I think both. When you finish campus, they have like they organize for fairs where companies come and showcase what they're working with, and you can get an opportunity to contact them and learn about their work. and you also get like support in writing CVs. But most of the time, like I said, it's those events and those activities and those opportunities are there, but they are competitive. So a lot of it also is dependent on initiative. So it's good to align yourself to the things you want to work with. So for example, I was part of groups or clubs that were working on climate change or things that I was interested with. And actually, when I wanted a job or when I started my startup, because it was also revolving about, addressing some of these environmental challenges, then I would get a lot of internal support. And that would always give me a boost. There was a lot of internal support from the people that I was working with. There was good recommendations. So I got all my jobs, actually, or almost all of them, including the part-times through the networks. So, and the people that I aligned myself with, depending on what I was interested in. So yes, you get support, but a lot of it will also depend on your own initiative. And also, if you're in a country that doesn't speak the language, some people, like I said, will spend like a lot of their free time working, but it's good to take the initiative and try to learn the course, because that will almost always come up. Like, it's not very obvious, but once you start applying for those professional jobs, then the language will always come into play. And you can understand because almost everyone speaks. That's their national language. So we can understand, even though they understand English, they still want you, or they appreciate when you make the effort. They appreciate so much. So you don't have to be perfect, but that's the other way of you to be able to work with the locals. And those are the people that will give recommendations to you. Those are the people, that's how you learn when there are openings. So take the support, but also make some initiative. Yeah.
Nice. Then could you share a little bit of your thoughts on the support you enjoyed while in school and how it all positioned you for your career post-graduation?
Thank you, Ikenna. I do agree with Gaki again. I did get a lot of support from the university. In fact, we had, for us, we had a module which was graded. You create your CV and cover letter with lots of materials and guidance that they provide, and they actually grade you on how much you've developed your CV and cover letter from the way it was initially. The university also did advertise jobs because we had the semester where you choose to either study abroad or do an internship. So the university provided most of, I would say maybe 70% of the students got their internship opportunities from what was advertised by the universities. And as Gaki said, I think the languages make a difference. If you can learn an additional language and be proficient enough to use it in the workplace, I think they really value that effort. Even if you're not fluent, at least if you can manage to have a brief conversation, I think it makes a difference. And that I think is what I saw determined who got which jobs. I did actually one interview for an internship, and my classmates, I think with one of my classmates as well, and she spoke French and Spanish, and I only spoke English and a bit of French. So you see, if you're applying with somebody who has 4 languages, as Gaki said, most European students, they have 2, 3, 4 languages. So I think it's always an advantage to have an additional language which you're able to communicate with. And in terms of positioning, I think from my experience, I think it made a difference to decide which area to focus on, because I only was applying to NGOs, and actually because it's in line with your interest, like actually my research touched on something that my current job is doing. So it was a point of a discussion during my interview. So I think that also contributed to my positioning. And basically, I think it's good to make use of as much of the guidance that the universities provide. And also another place that would be of benefit would be to interact with the faculty more as much as possible, because if that will help you if you need to get references at the end of your course, and that almost I think all jobs require you to give references. So for me, I still have references and contacts in some of the universities who have been able to help me with references when I've needed to apply for a job. Thank you.
Great. Perfect. We are already running behind schedule in terms of time. So Titus, you could just give us maybe the last two questions so that we can wrap up after that.
Yeah, so my next question maybe I'll start again with Lyn. My next question is, how are you making a difference in your current job, and what is your plan for the next 5 to 10 years?
Great question, Titus. I think that's a big question. It's hard to summarize in a few minutes, but I would say how I'm making an impact is that I'm actually passionate about what I'm doing at work. I work in the digital transformation unit, so I provide oversight and support for mobile data collection tools. So I'm very I am passionate about problem solving and innovation. So I enjoy my role, and I think the work I do has impact because the data we provide helps in decision making organization-wide, and also in terms of the impact to the beneficiaries who are receiving different services, and also where there are emergencies, the data we provide, which through the data collection tools, is able to help in coordination during emergency support services. Sorry, your second question, where do I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years? I think definitely I would go back to school. I hope to pursue a PhD, and I think it's important to position yourself where your passion lies and where you see the world is going. So for me, I think it's most likely to be in development and innovation. That's where my passion lies, and that's where I see myself in the next 5 years, making more impact, and especially in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaki?
Thank you, Titus. So like Lyn, I'm also passionate about what I've been working on. So I'm using my skills to make a difference both in my community in Kenya, and I believe that where I am as well. So I'm using that to run my startup, which is helping the coffee farmers, the small scale coffee farmers, but also addressing deforestation, because I love conservation, and issues like biodiversity loss are very close to my heart. So I'm using such avenues to try and make an impact wherever I am. So for example, by connecting or creating more awareness about the challenges that we have for the people that live, like close to the forest where the coffee grows, and the consumers here, I feel it's a way of bridging that knowledge gap, and by sharing experiences. And also in my work, being able to apply like how to conserve biodiversity, even as we switch to renewable energy, I think those are some of the causes that that are close to my heart. So that's how I'm making a difference. And where I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years, I hope that I'm able to support more small-scale farmers and help in land restoration. And also, I hope to pursue a PhD and continue to teach and show people these interconnections. Yeah, the impact of their lifestyles here, because it's two different worlds. So yeah, in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. Ikenna, maybe you can conclude.
Yeah, thank you so much, Titus, for such a wonderful session. And we want to especially thank our speakers, Gaki, Lyn. It's so wonderful to hear from you, your experiences. It's such a very deep conversation, leading through how you started, the motivation, the experiences you had over, while studying, how it all connected in becoming you and you becoming what you are today, and to also know the impact you're actually, having in the African community and the world general, and having a little bit of a peep into your future. So it's such an awesome conversation we had, and want to especially thank you for sharing these valuable insights on the topic and the benefits of international education. To all our attendees, we also say thank you so much, because without you, we won't be having this series. We have this webinar series every Thursday, same time. It's going to be 4 p.m. East African time and 2 p.m. West African time. And this series, the MSM Campus Connect webinar series, is proudly brought to you by MSM Unify. It's a one-stop international education marketplace for your needs as a prospective international student. It provides official information on thousands of programs, institutions, as well as top destinations, free of charge. And also, we also offer free, study guides, articles, in fact, virtually anything you can think about your study overseas journey. So we want you to connect with MSM Unify. You can see it on the screen, www.msmunify.com. Reach out to us, go on the website, look at the options that are available for you, and then you can contact Titus for East Africa and South African attendees. He's the country manager in Kenya. His email is on the screen. And for those in West Africa, my name is Ikena, and my email address is on the screen. So we will hopefully see you next week with another group of wonderful speakers. So make it a date and join us. And it's goodbye for me here. Thank you. Thank you, Titus. Thank you, Gaki. Thank you, Lyn. Such a wonderful and great pleasure to have you guys. So, yeah, bye. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.